5:02. Let's call the meeting to order. Since we are missing a voting member, I would ask Evan be seated to be a voting member during this meeting.
Okay.
And I would ask somebody to move to approve the minutes of the July 24th special meeting.
I move.
I'll second. Thank you. Any discussion? Any corrections? Okay. I hear a vote to minutes?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Thank you. Public comment? Michael?
I have no comment.
Okay. You have no?
This one.
Okay.
Regarding the, and I spoke with Mike about this yesterday, so it might be redundant if you already heard it, about the no fishing on the rules and regs. I don't know if Mike did spoke about that.
Not yet.
So, okay. Well, I can wait for you to do that, or if you want me to talk about it here or now.
Well, we could talk about it now.
Yeah.
This was on the Horseneck Creek landing.
Yeah.
That I think we just put the standard language that said no fishing, hunting, and whatever the long list of things is at this location. But certainly when we get the dock, that I would think I would vote for crabbing and fishing if harbor management kind of approves it too, because it's really their structure. So you guys would have to figure out what you're going to allow on the dock given its shape and size, because I don't want it to interfere with the launching of kayaks and stuff.
Mike, do you want to come? Mike, do you want to come up?
Sorry. I wasn't here to represent our management at the time, but I just wanted to get some feedback. But I also wanted to update you because I did have some discussions with Deep regarding the dock application.
Okay.
And where that stands currently. So I kind of wanted to just update you guys on that.
Yep.
We were originally going for individual structure fill and dredge permit, and we've been advised to turn it to a 440 permit, which is a streamlined dock permit process. We're still trying to see if we meet all the criteria for the 440, but they did indicate that they did not want us to put a bird observation platform. You know, they do they want to see one on the landward side.
Okay, that's good, as long as we've got a view.
Exactly. And he's like, look, you guys can have it up on the upland side. He's like, but they're not going to want it down on the water side.
Yep.
So they're just going to be looking for a fixed pier to a floating ramp to a float. But, you know, originally on our plans, we had drafted up a 10 by 10 and so that's going to be coming out of our dock proposal plan.
And we might just need zoning approval, right, then if it's on the...
It would, yeah. Regardless, the dock will have to have zoning if there's any attachment to the upland.
Yeah.
So we'll have to go down that road regardless.
And that's when we would, you know, change the design.
Correct. But I just wanted to clarify to you guys that as much as we wanted it, they're going to prohibit us. Now, we could ask for it, but they're saying it's unlikely. So I'd rather just not waste everybody's time.
Because it's increasing the size of the dock over the tidal wetland.
Yes,
probably.
correct. Yep. And which is understandable. So they're like, okay, if you want to look at the birds, they're going to have to do it from the beginning.
I have a quick question about that.
Yeah.
What I liked about that is it gave you a little more room to maneuver your kayak around.
I agree.
So is that a consideration?
I mean, I will try to push the limitations within that recommended permit process. Now, they're saying that we don't have to go the 440 way, but it's just an extremely streamlined process as opposed to an individual permit.
Because that right angle turn is a little tough, right?
I agree, yeah.
Especially on a longer kayak.
Absolutely. So you want to make it so it's functional, you know?
Yeah.
And then,
They would let you do that.
I would think so. I mean, especially
If we're building a
maybe
dock to get kayaks out on...
ADA accessibility requirements might have to have some sort of spinning area radius.
Because
I don't
you're
know.
aware, that's good, yeah.
Yeah, so whatever dock design, it is public access, so it is going to have to be ADA compliant. It's not a requirement from DEEP to be ADA compliant, but I feel that it's a necessity from the town's perspective because we don't want to get sued for not accommodating ADA.
I would agree with that.
Especially if we get, you know, outside funding to help.
Exactly.
That's going to, you know...
Might be a requirement built into it.
Well, it may not be a requirement, but it's going to help us get the dollars if it's ADA compatible.
It's always been my desire that we have at least some trails ADA compliant, or if not technically ADA compliant, usable.
As close as it can be.
Yeah.
I totally agree to that aspect. So that's the update as far as the dock. The original reason I was walking up here was, the fishing. And then we talked with Mike yesterday, we understand no hunting in that situation, in that specific scenario, but I think
But that's not to say somebody couldn't hunt at a legal distance, and then they go in their kayak and something.
Yeah, well, that's it. So this property
We have no
was purchased
control over
originally
that.
to access the hunting and fishing grounds.
Right.
so I just don't want to preclude that as an opportunity for the, the
The
community.
one issue about fishing is that you can talk to Sabine or whoever I think Edie Twining's the stewardship coordinator for the land trust now.
People leaving behind lines.
That's the reason why they shut down Watch Rock on weekends, because when people were, quote, fishing in there, they were coming in, picnicking along the water's edge.
And making a mess.
Leaving a lot of trash, frankly.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah.
Even though they have trash receptacles, they even have a, porta potty. If you've been there at their site, maybe two.
Well, that's been an issue too, where
People tip over the
when
porta
they've had trash barrels up there, people have been dumping
And stuff in the porta potty.
basically bags of home trash.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the disadvantage they have is being located along Neck Road, Route 156. Their exposure there is pretty significant, whereas hopefully the Buttonball property is a little bit more hidden and it's a little harder to get to, and maybe you're not going to see that sort of traffic flow, I would expect.
That's been a problem since the very beginning of Watch Rock, since it was purchased.
And I think it's primarily crabbing because it's really not.
They do. They
enough,
leave the turkey,
fish.
the chicken boxes and all the crap they use the stuff with, And you see it significantly down on the Black Hall River when they, on the left and right sides of the river there. And we don't want to see that either. But I just don't want to preclude people from being able to connect to the resource at that point. So, yeah.
So are you suggesting that be taken off the site, or?
Yeah, just the no fishing be taken off the.
Well, it's just on the web.
Correct. It doesn't exist anywhere besides
It's not on a sign or anything.
your new website that you guys put up, which we appreciate, by the way.
Now, you guys aren't going to be concerned about, if people are crabbing when people are trying to launch.
I don't see.
You don't think it's going to be that busy?
I don't. And if it becomes a problem, then we address it at that time. But I think there's going to be a time frame between now and when the dock goes in where people might want to still crab or, connect to the resource. And I was rereading the deed again, and it says, unencumbered access pretty much to the Connecticut River access. So with that in mind, I just don't want to preclude it. And
Yeah, on a more specific question, or more specific delineation, were you envisioning people crabbing off the dock, Michael, or?
I would think people are going to do that.
Walking down that long way to the flagpole, where would people
I
fish
personally
crab?
see it would probably be down the old, because like if you guys remember when we were out there with Mike, he went out with the test pit, little auger thing, and you couldn't get through. So there is a hard packed gravel underneath that salt marsh base. So I would imagine if someone did walk out to the edge, they might. I don't even know if the crabbing's any good in that area. I don't crab, so I don't really know if that's.
It would be more in the channel that they would do it.
Yeah. So.
Because you can't get to a point where you can easily manipulate a net. So you're going to create the perfect crabbing spot with the float.
Yep.
The dock.
And what else can I ask you about that?
So I'm confused about the crabbing, because you want to keep people off the marsh, right? So
I mean,
how do we-
I'm not so
how do we
much-
balance?
Well, according to DEEP, they don't think walking in the marsh is a detriment to. It's not a regular. It's not a. You were when the DEP came down and they said they don't consider walking along the marsh a environmental impact.
But you look at the Lieutenant River landing and their river.
Which one is this?
Right off 156 at the 156.
Yeah, it gets a little
bridge.
tramp.
Oh yeah, where they all trample off to the right there. Yeah. So
There's a significant.
But that's something we can address if it starts to happen.
I think your occasional person is not going to. Again, exposed site right on Route 1. It screams come crab here. You know what I mean? I don't think we're going to have that type of traffic flow.
You also get crabbing on the
Town dock.
cemetery property too.
Yes, yep.
By the 156 bridge. So that would be my only reservation on
People walking
I think really encourage crabbing or fishing, because that's what's going to happen. People are it's going to get, somebody's going to be on the dock and they say, well, I don't want to fish next to somebody else, so I'm going to go down. So it's just people walking back and forth.
I think, if it's on the structure, I would let harbor management do it because that's their jurisdiction, and they're gonna be regulating what happens on the dock, and
And it doesn't impact the marsh if you're on the dock.
believe me, the crabbers are gonna go to the best, easiest, most usable spot, and it's gonna be the dock, provided there aren't a lot of people launching boats. They're not gonna walk out in a marsh and sink up to their knees in mud if they step in the wrong place. And I have walked all the way out to the Blackhall River. It's a
get a wall
slow, it's not, when you're on the creek, there's a marsh edge with peat that gets deep, and you could actually just stand right on the, well, you can stand right on the edge and grab, but if you go out to the river, you can't. It's just not suitable.
Well, it's a big mud flat out there.
Yeah, and people are they're gonna go to the dock, and the harbor management folks are gonna have to figure out, we'll start, not limiting it. But number one, fishing, there's not gonna be a lot of water there to catch anything big other than, I call them chubs, but they're mummicar.
Just for example, yesterday at my marina, somebody came to, hey, do you mind if I go fishing with my son down there? Yeah, no problem. They came down with 2 little fishing poles and a bobber, and they were just catching minnows, literally like throwing the worm in. They're not catching anything but a tiny little,
Yeah.
just for the appeasement of, oh, this is fishing with my son, just the excitement. So that's kind of what I see for fishing. I don't really see someone sitting in there and rolling some bluefish, because I don't think those kind of fish are going to be in that area.
Except at the highest of tides if they're chasing bunker up the river.
Correct. So, yeah.
That's more.
The other thing. The right-of-way. I guess there was some dialogue with the attorney, and I gotten the deed, I read the deed, and we're just trying to also get an interpretation. I know you understand, I guess you guys got one from Jack Collins.
No, we talked to Ed Casella.
Oh, Ed Casella, sorry. Collins recused himself or
Actually,
something.
we just got his bill.
Is it anything like the Panama Head bill?
I haven't opened it yet.
But yeah, so we're trying to get some clarity on the 40-foot easement. It specifically says to be maintained in the current condition as it was transferred. So the 1958 deed reads, for egress by foot, vehicle, and to be maintained in the existing, I could read it to you actually if you prefer, just so there's no question about what it actually reads. It doesn't specifically say maintain, so that's where we're trying to get some understanding of what's allowed within that 40 feet. But the way it reads on the 1958 deed, which would have been to the state of Connecticut, it goes together with a right for egress and ingress and egress by foot or by vehicle, 40 feet in width over the land of the grantor, loading from the easterly side of the within conveyed premises to Button Ball Road as shown on said map, blah, blah, blah. And then the second part of it says, hereby expressly reserve the right upon written notice to the grantee, so that'd be to the town, to change the location of the said right-of-way to any other location on the said easterly side within the conveyed premises. But in the event they elect to change the location of said right-of-way, then the grantor shall, at their own expense, construct the new right-of-way in as good a condition as the one that's currently in use. The grantor also reserves the right for themselves, their heirs, the right to cross and recross within the conveyed area by vehicles, etc. So again, the club has the legal authority to relocate the town's right-of-way somewhere else, but it has to still be a 40-foot easement, whether it's here or there or wherever. I understand Blackhall not wanting the sign on their property. Mainly the intention of that sign was, it was actually missing the directional arrow sign that's supposed to say ahead 200 feet. That's honestly the portion of the sign that didn't get added.
We measured that to be within 20 feet of the center. So it is on the inside of the 20 feet from the side. So, and that's it throughout. So we said that we talked to another attorney, and he said that we can absolutely maintain the 40 feet wide, 20 feet from the center of each side.
So I don't know, that's a discussion for Blackhall Club anyway. I just wanted to relay that, we're trying to get a delineated answer so that way we're not trampling on the property rights of the landowner's property there. So I don't know if that sign's already come down or not.
That's something I guess that with the country club will talk about with us, I guess.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
We haven't done anything with the sign.
Yeah, no, I mean, Mike just brought it to our attention last night. I just wanted you to know that you got copies of the right-of-way easement deeds and just to try to clarify to make sure we aren't tromping on property.
Yeah, and we're just going with what the
Yeah,
town
the
attorney
gist of what
told us.
Casella told us basically is that each party is guaranteed right of passage and ingress and exiting. And for the portion of the property that is not within the driveway, that's the responsibility of each of the property owner. And whether or not one could put something within that.
Correct.
Frankly, he didn't say you're absolutely prohibited from doing it. He just said it would be, quote, I think he said problematic, something like that, if I recall him exactly.
No, but at the minimum, you'd have to get the permission of
Yeah.
the property
Yeah,
owner to
you-
put it within their...
Correct.
On their
Outside of
property within the 40-foot right-of-way.
Yeah, I guess that's what we're trying to
Yeah,
clarify.
it's their property.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but see, it's got a subordinate use, like, there's language, I should have screenshot that, because there's like a
Yeah,
specific
I'm a little
language.
uncomfortable in this
No, that's fine.
conversation, Mike, because
That's
I'm
fine.
not an attorney.
No, I understand, that's why we'll just let the attorneys figure it out. I just wanted you to know that we were working on that, and I appreciate you guys hearing the concerns, and thank you.
Did you have a
Just,
comment?
For point of clarification, what was the decision of the verbiage with regard to the crabbing and fishing? Was there any?
My understanding is that we were going to eliminate the fishing, no fishing. Because specifically, this property went to the Supreme Court to become a parking area for access to the fishing and hunting grounds. And specifically it says for recreational access.
What limitation, if any, goes along with the natural heritage designation of that marsh?
I'm not familiar with that.
You mean the Connecticut River one or the Platte?
Yeah, well, it's not going to prohibit fishing.
Database.
Or grabbing or anything. So, I think the easiest way to deal with it is just, I think it's going to impact the dock and the access way most, because that's where most folks that fish, i.e. me, would want to crab. I'm not going to walk out, over a marsh through the water and the mud and stuff.
When you have an alternative, that is the dock.
And, if they allow it, that's going to be up to the Harbor Management Commission and what they allow to happen on the dock, probably based on use.
And I think it's super important for signage to keep off the marsh. We're very, very adamant about, from the very beginning, where the split rail was delineating, do not go on the marsh. No one needs to be on the marsh. I agree 100%, no one needs to be on the marsh. And if we put that on the dock as well, as part of our rules and our QR code, you are not to walk on the marsh. And they were very adamant about that.
So then, just to be clear, you're restricting fishing and crabbing to the dock?
I'd say no until there's a dock, but
Pardon me?
I personally would like to see that fishing is an option until there is a dock.
Before the dock?
Because
But that was probably...
I understand.
That means people walking on the marsh.
Yeah, but see, if we were able to find a way to keep them contained to the gravel bed, then it's going to be less of a significant impact, because the reason there's an impact to the marsh.
Mike, it's still marsh.
No, I understand that, but I'm just taking a quote from the DEP saying that they don't consider walking on the marsh from the...
Hopefully, what's the time, what is DP telling you on the time frame for the dock?
Probably about six months.
So, crabbing kind of ends
It's right now
December.
anyway, yeah, exactly.
Doesn't start till May 31st, so the dock could be in by the time
The next
season
season rolls
opens.
around, yeah.
So maybe it's
A moot point.
a moot point, and you guys, I still say that you guys have to decide what you want to allow on,
Well, I guess the
on the
board-
dock, and you heard us, we don't really want people trampling over the marsh,
And I
creating trails and things, and
I'd like to pick up on what Terry was saying. If you want to keep people off the marsh, and we don't have a dock in place yet for fishing, then I think we should
we're
keep...
putting in a
we should-
we're putting
we
in
should-
a fence to
We should
prevent
keep the no fishing sign up for now.
Well, there's not any
It's
specific
not-
sign that says no fishing. It was just on your webpage that you guys had
Okay.
articulated that.
Yeah, because that's the standard language on all of our parcels, and
We can't have a no fishing on this parcel because of the deed, but I think we can quietly say that we would prefer everybody to stay off the marsh So I think we're not going to promote it, but we can't put a no fishing sign because of how the state has given us that property.
So I would agree with that.
I think you need a legal interpretation. There's a lot of gray area.
But the DEP said that the whole entire section of the launching area is not, and I'm not, you might know the technical terms of it, but that is only a small layer over top of the complete gravel driveway, and actually there's partial paving that was at one point on the end of it that is still under there.
Yeah, you can imagine access out to that point in that
Yeah.
specific area, you
Yeah.
know, but not the rest of the marsh.
I agree.
Okay, so, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If there was a way,
And there's a trail that people are gonna be kind of guided to.
it's
that
inherently already there.
They could walk to, and
That makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing. Like, if you're going to go walk in the marsh that doesn't have a gravel bank under it,
And
you're
most
going
people-
to
But
absolutely.
the question is, how do you
bug.
keep people to that path so they don't wander off?
So maybe, how about like, if you know.
we might have some signage down there just.
No, like Mile Creek Road, where they did when you go over the Mile Creek Bridge on Mile Creek, they replaced the bridge over the Black Hall River. Those signs are working. If you remember what that marsh used to look like before they put the signs up that says wetland restoration in progress, stay off marsh, those signs are absolutely working. You don't see people crabbing down there anymore. They're not trampling on the marsh. So I think if those signs were oriented in such a way, maybe you had a little tiny sign. We're not opposed to that.
And, you know, we're gonna be applying for a grant for educational signage. That actually, I think it might even be on the agenda, but we've certainly talked about applying for grants to help us get put some high quality signs about what you're likely to see there in terms of birds and animals, just like DEEP does at some various locations.
Which need to be redone, by the way, over
Well,
there.
they get bleached.
Yeah, the fiberglass ones. You can,
They get bleached.
Fiberglass. But I took enough of your time. I'll let you guys continue on your
Okay.
meeting. Thank you for listening to me.
Any other public comment? Did you have anything, Terry?
No.
Okay. So the next item is member recruitment. I know we talked about this before. We now have a full team of stewards. Michael and I met with Peter and Alex yesterday. And if anybody knows someone that might be interested in considering joining the commission, we'd love to talk to them. I'd like to move on from some of the things that have been basically held slightly in abeyance because of the heat, summer travel, and so forth.
How many openings do we have?
We have
one
two
voting
alternates.
member and two alternates.
So we have a full membership and two alternates.
Correct.
Are we looking for particular expertise or anything?
It would be great to have somebody with some land use experience, someone that has communications experience, someone that has conservation experience, but, I think even more important, someone that is...
Know how to use loppers?
Yeah, well, someone that's willing to
Dig post holes?
commit some time and effort to the job. Yeah. And just as an FYI, I did speak to both Randy Nixon and to Mary Jo Nosel, the two party chairs, to see if they had anybody that would be interested. Mary Jo actually recruited me to join this commission, so maybe she can find someone that might be able to join us.
Man, yes, I can come. You guys really lucky. You're lucky that my wife won't let me out of the house.
The next thing I wanted to mention is the Woodhead property. Evan and I had multiple conversations, and Mike joined one of them with the realtor who represented Mr. Woodhead. And we did it kind of in conjunction with the land trust and also with the affordable housing. Because the properties are coming up from 4 Mile River Road are very steep, and then they come down into a wet area, and then they kind of level off, and Michael Foliano thought we could perhaps work out something where we could share the cost of acquiring the property, and some of that could be used for affordable housing. He did some research with that. There were issues with access and, frankly, issues with financing a partner that could contribute to the acquisition cost. So he dropped out of it. And then we talked to Vivian about
Talk to who?
Vivian Snuff, the realtor,
Oh.
about basically buying the property. The land trust had a quick appraisal done by Steve Flanagan, and he found out that he suggested the value of that property was considerably less than the asking price that the Eklunds were seeking. They offered the appraised price, and the Eklunds agreed to that. So Evan and I told Vivian that we'd be interested in Woodhead if, the price were adjusted from the selling price. Vivian, go ahead, Amanda, you have a question.
I didn't quite understand. So if Flanagan did an appraisal of the Woodhead property?
Of the Eklund property.
Of the Eklund property?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because they were...
Land Trust had an appraisal
Right.
of the Eklund property.
Right, because they've been wanting to get that one.
And Steve Flanagan said it was worth roughly $9,000 an acre.
Right, the Eklund one.
Eklund, right. And we told the realtor that we weren't going to pay more than the land trust is going to pay for what we consider to be basically a twin property. So she said, well, you need to demonstrate that to the seller. So we had contacted Steve Flanagan with the expectation that if we had a deal, we would apply for an open space grant. So he said he would do a quick appraisal for us for $1,100, and that would be, quote, a free appraisal if we needed a yellow book. He would apply the entire cost of that towards the yellow book appraisal. I said, go ahead and do that. He came up with a price for the Woodhead property of $365,000 versus the $450,000 they were asking, which is $85,000 less than their asking price. We told Vivian we would purchase it at that price if they were Mr. Woodhead interested in selling it, also with the same contingencies that the land trust had, namely, number one, that the sale would be contingent on approval of a deep grant, and the Eklunds even agreed to an additional contingency where the property would not close until they had money in hand, and we suggested that we'd like that as well. So she went to Mr. Woodhead, and he said, let me think about this offer for a while. I said to Vivian, Vivian, we're really up against it with this grant. You got to give us an answer. 4 days later, she called me and said that Mr. Woodhead would not be interested in selling their property. She said it was not a financial decision. He thought the offer was fair. It was an emotional decision. It was his father's property. His parents are buried in Old Lyme. He's in Colorado. It's his only tie to Old Lyme, and he didn't want to cut that. He said he is going to pass the property on to his daughter. He's going to strongly encourage her that the property be conserved and that she should talk to us, but he's not interested in selling at this point. So basically, that property
kind of shut the door.
Shut the door.
I'm sorry, what is the address of the 4 mile property?
I think it was like 188.
It's right at the top of 4 Mile River Road, and where it comes into Route 1.
Yeah.
And it's just to the south of that, before there are any houses, and it's very steep, and it's also part of the upper 3 Mile River watershed.
Yeah. One of the other reasons we were interested
and glacial deposits, and it would be a nightmare trying to get.
One of the other reasons we were interested in it directly abuts a property we currently have, and if we were to acquire it, the land trust was going to also have a property directly abutting that. So with our joint holdings and with these two new holdings, it would have been roughly about a 200-acre greenway.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay.
I just had a couple of questions, several questions actually. I'm just kind of confused. I thought we had a procedure for acquisition of property that gave us, all of us, the commission, a site walk. I thought that if we were interested in a property and wanted to have an appraisal, And if it was over a certain amount of money, it had to be done by vote of the commission.
It's $2,000 in the bylaws, is it not?
And, well, but I think we usually go through all of the steps, and the same with the recommendation to purchase it, and I just feel that some of us were kind of left out of that whole process. I agree, it's nice to have those properties, that entire green belt, but the property that we have was the one that we got through an open space acquisition on a subdivision, and it's really not a very good piece. It's not really walkable. The only partial trail is from the land trust, and it has a huge CL&P easement on it. And if we have limited funds, I at least had hoped it would come up for discussion for the whole board to look at before an offer to purchase it was made.
We did discuss this in executive session. We did
we
not take a
took no
vote on that. We did not have a contract. We made an offer. We weren't sure if it was going to be accepted. Before any contract was negotiated, we would have gone, obviously, for a vote, and we would offer members to take a
But
look
what
at it.
happened if they accepted it? You would have purchased.
We would have had a special meeting to have the commission vote on it as a first step.
But I wish we could have been a little more involved in the process, and all of us knew about it. We did have a discussion on it, I grant you that, but in the past, when we've ever gone for an acquisition of a property, it's been always brought to executive session and voted when we came out to, get a appraisal, to do a site walk, to talk to the selectmen about it, and I just would hate to lose that procedure that we have going forward. I understand this may have been a time crunch or something, but...
It was a little bit of a time crunch, Amanda, because it was on the market. We heard it was on the market, that it was being handled by a realtor, and therefore it was fair game.
Right,
for...
but we've done properties like that before, and that was in May, and this is September. There was certainly an opportunity to, call a special meeting or even do it on the web to keep us all, aware of this. I think in discussions with a couple of other members, it's not a piece that we are interested in. We've certainly brought it up in past years because the access is a nightmare. You can't access it.
What other members are you referring to?
I'd rather not say but I did have a discussion with another member and said, have you seen this piece? We've looked at it 10 years ago. We've looked at it with the land trust 10 years ago.
An ex-member. An ex-member of the
No,
commission.
a member. And
Well, it wasn't me.
Don't all jump up. No, I just would hope that we would continue our past, our procedure, and if something like this is coming up, just to let us all know.
Is there a written procedure? I've never seen one.
Yes, there was a written procedure. The other thing is...
Will the procedure actually get ratified, or do we just talk about a draft procedure?
I'd have to look through, but we've used this procedure. I think Diana put it in place. We've used this procedure. And the other thing, when you write that letter of support, our attorney advised us when we did the last update of our plan of conservation or whatever it was that you wrote so kindly for us. He said he would prefer that we not identify properties because then people know and it, affects the price. And then in this letter that you're proposing, I think, to the land trust, it talks all about it. We made an offer and everything. So then, I don't know, it's kind of out there. I don't know. Just a little different procedure, and maybe the procedure's changing. That's why I wasn't sure, and I brought it up.
Well, that's one of the reasons I shared the letter with everybody. Does anybody else have an issue with naming the Woodhead property since it's no longer a subject of, it's not on the market and it's not a property that we are in the process of acquiring?
Well, what would happen if someone came to the Woodhead and offered them more money because it's a piece we want, and then they turned around and tried to sell it to us for more?
Try to sell it to us, doesn't mean we'd buy it.
Well, I know, but it's up to you.
It's not up to me, it's up to the commission.
Well,
so I'm asking people, would people like to have this letter revised? I think I shared it with all.
Yeah, I didn't have any issue with it, just because it seemed at this point, it's sort of a dead issue. And so.
The letter to the old land trust.
Pardon?
The
But
letter to the old.
it goes to the
What
grant.
is to the old land trust, but they in turn will give it to Deep. It'll be a public document.
Yeah, it's a letter in support of their application, which the timeline is they've got to get it in by the 1st of October.
Would you feel comfortable if I just said the Open Space Commission researched a
Abutting property.
budding property without naming anything?
I would, to be honest with you. I just, and there are other abutting property owners there, but I would feel, I just don't want to single it out right now, because it seems like a done deal, and I'm not sure it's a done deal. And I don't know, I just have some qualms with it.
Is everybody else?
I don't, one way or another, I don't think it has to be mentioned that it was Mr. Woodhead that we were talking to.
I'm happy to revise it.
Okay,
then.
thank you. That would be very nice. Thank you.
So as I
One last interruption, and I apologize for being adjourned. Has anyone seen the parcel that just came up on Flat Rock for sale? 35 acres?
Yeah.
Okay, I just throwing that out, make sure you understand about that.
The other thing I wanted to mention is I told you, I mentioned that we worked closely with affordable housing on this, and we gave them a lot of latitude to investigate whether this would be an appropriate property for them to consider. In that regard, I talked to Michael Foliano recently. He's still in the process of assembling a McCulloch steering committee. He's got a local developer who's going to join the steering committee. I said I would participate in the committee as a member. He does not expect that committee to meet until late October. He is also talking to his affordable housing's attorney and to the land use on the best way to transfer the envelopes to Habitat to Humanity. And he also received an okay from his counsel that an ARPA grant might be used to reimburse the Open Space Fund for the full amount that was used to acquire the properties. And again, he hopes that will be done well within the 5-year deadline.
When is next
It's
year?
less than a year.
Yeah, it was September.
Sure. I think it's
19.
September 9th. Was I think the 9th or the 19th. So this is the last year.
Okay. Okay, that's moving on from land.
Okay.
Next is land steward. Talk to Michael about what's happening.
Yeah, well, we met with Peter Norris and Alex, whose last name I'm drawing a blank on, our new land steward yesterday at the library, D'Amico. And I might have scared them a little bit because I did sort of an analysis of all our properties, and it turns out we have about 950 acres and about 15 miles of trails. So I kind of figured out how do I split that in half and made 2 routes. And we're expecting them each to do a route a month. So there's route 1, and Alex will do that, and Peter will have route 2. And I have a form for them to fill out that kind of is standardized so that we can get it now that they're part-time. Well, they're almost all part-time. I think Peter's completed all the paperwork. Alex has submitted all the paperwork, signed, but he hasn't filled out all the other forms that he needs to, so they can cut checks and take out the associated expenses for taxes and FICA and stuff. So it's interesting. I found that the library has these little study rooms that you conveniently get about 5 people in, and it was good because Alex couldn't get here till after town hall closed, so we're going to standardize the process by which they're going to go and focus on their trails. But I also have them going to some of our newer parcels like Horseneck Creek and Calkins Road. And ultimately we told them we're probably going to even add some of the subdivision open space that we don't have a good handle on. I mean, we know where it is, but it's not readily accessible by the public, but we should be checking it for encroachments on the boundaries and things, and we'll have to figure that out when we get closer to doing it.
Yeah.
And I also encourage them to give us feedback on, besides, the clearing and the maintaining, and if they've got, huge trees down, letting us know something about what are they seeing. Are they seeing fox or fisher or a bear, and just write it in the notes. And then I'm going to train both of them on how to use eBird and Merlin.
Oh, nice.
So that when they're walking, they'll be collecting some bird data. We have hotspots on all of our open space, so it's easy for them to do. And I'm going to probably be meeting with them early in October to just go over how that gets done. We didn't scare them off, I don't think, did we?
No.
And I'm hoping Wayne didn't get back to me, so I'm hoping to talk to Wayne. He wants to do more of a contractor type stuff, as I understand.
He expressed to me he did not want to be a part-time employee, but he would still like to work on open space. And the only issue regarding that is I was told by finance we can't have two classes of workers with the same name, so we'll have to come up with a title for him other than land steward.
Can't you hire him as an independent contractor if he has a business?
That's what he is. That's what he will be.
Yeah.
We can't call him a land steward.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, he's just jack of all trades.
Yeah. But I'm hoping to talk to Wayne to see what his capabilities are. For example, does he have a post hole digger? Will he, go to other? I guess he will go to other properties because he put the kiosk up at Ferry Landing.
He helped us on Ames do the trails.
Yeah.
He does a lot. It's more or less, he's semi-retired now, so what fits? He has every piece of equipment you have.
So he would, he could get a post hole digger or something like that down to.
He can get a front-end loader down anywhere. Yeah, he's got everything. But he did express interest, because when we had the conversation about the bat house and the bird house, and he says, I could put one up on a Rook's Meadow if we hadn't, because we talked about putting one a little bit farther from the meadow into the woods a little more. And he says, oh yeah, I can do that. So, and because he has his license and all that equipment.
And he can move his equipment around.
And so, and you could just pick the spot. I usually go along with him or someone else, and we help him. But one of the things that he pointed out, and I don't know this for a fact on bat houses, but definitely on bird houses, once you put them up, you got to maintain them. So So do you have to maintain a bat house?
That I don't know, because we have two bat houses on our property, but no bats.
Well, I guess that's their own maintenance.
Yeah, and so it hasn't.
Original point. No.
Been no necessity of having any maintenance, at least for the time being.
But we have bird houses on Rook's Meadow.
No, and I've cleaned out.
Has anyone maintained them?
I've cleaned out the ones at Rook's Meadow, the one on Rook.
On the fence or over by the...
And then over by Wickford.
But, so maybe that would be something on the land steward's list, if you're in charge of this one, once a year clean out the bird nests. But I just didn't want to put all these things up and then have to worry about maintenance, especially because the bat one goes up a lot higher, is what I've heard.
Yeah, I don't think there's maintenance associated with that, but Gary would know, because I'm supposedly tracking down a pole for a bat house.
Well, so when we had this conversation about bats like a year and a half ago, he came in with this bat thing that would take a telephone pole to put on, and it was too big. And then, was it you, Andy? He gave us a smaller one like this
I've got
size?
it.
Yeah. Is that the one you have?
No, we have the big one.
That big one will take a piece of equipment, and it's a liability. I mean, it's a concern. Wayne looked at it and says, we can't. I mean, it's huge.
I think that's committed to another location.
Good.
I think the land trust is taking it. That's it.
Okay, because he brought us another one.
But I could speak to them.
Yeah, okay.
He
Maybe
brought
you've
us
got-
another one, a smaller one, because, oh, I know why, because Suzanne Colton Carey was here that day, and she says that's the one he put up near her, and said that would be appropriate, because the other one is it's just a monster.
But getting back to the land stewards, so we're just sort of setting up a standard operating procedure that they're going to have schedules, and the schedules are going to flip every 2 months as they learn what to do. And, well, obviously Peter knows what to do, and they'll probably, if one needs help, they've got each other's cell phones that they can call, and, so that I'm a little nervous about someone using a chainsaw by themselves without 2 people. So I'm going to kind of develop some rules. It's one thing to use a handsaw and loppers and you're by yourself. I sort of calculated when I was doing the time frame, because we've only got so much money to spend on them. I'm assuming that they're going to walk a mile and 30 minutes doing some trimming as they go along. And so they each have 8 miles and we're okay doing that, the 2 of them. So hopefully they'll visit some of the small sites that even don't have trails, but just to check on it, to see what's, is there a problem? Is something going on some of them? So, but I'm looking forward to working with them. And we also talked about, and this is something that the commission would have to discuss. We've sort of been depending on everybody to have their own tools, but wouldn't it be appropriate, I think, to buy each of them loppers and maybe a small trimmer, and then if we did get some other equipment, where, is there a place where we could store it where they would have access to it when they needed it?
One of the things I was thinking of is one of those invasive bush extractors.
Oh, yeah, extractors.
We can pick any,
A lever device that pulls them out of the ground.
burning engine.
She got one, and she said to get the one that has that heel on the back, because
Yeah.
it's too. But
Would there be interest in something like that? I mean, should I even pursue that?
That was brought up by Peter Norris. He said, now that I'm a town employee, will the town provide me with equipment?
Well, we did have, in the past, we did buy one, George James.
Yes.
So, and everything seemed to disappear. So I would just say because they carry it with them. Peter's really good about it, but there should be a place to store it, because otherwise it goes in someone's house and then they forget, and someone calls them and say, do you have my, so, yeah. I don't know
Or
if
we
there's...
leave it on the site that we worked at ourselves. We found a grub axe at Ferry Landing.
How about in the storage unit downstairs?
But they would be able to access that. I'm thinking something that maybe at Public Works, but that's something, if we have a...
Well, even if they were to access that, Amanda, I was talking to Peter. So if we did a chainsaw, for example, would he plug it in and leave it plugged in and unplug it when he gets it next? If it's a gas saw, is he going to store gas and oil down there? There's a lot of issues.
Peter, most of the time when I walk with Peter, he uses the handsaw.
Yes, well, I think 90% of the time they're going to use the handsaw, and then if it's something major, you should really contact me, and then we'll...
There should never be just one person with a chainsaw.
Yeah.
Right. I think there ought to be a hard and fast rule that if you're using a chainsaw, there's got to be 2 people.
Yes.
And
There are
safety
too many-
glasses and a few other things.
Too many things.
But I'm going to standardize that, so there's going to be like a little land steward handbook and some rules, so that should, God forbid, someone get injured, we can fall back and say, well, these were the rules that we established, and either they weren't followed or whatever. But anyhow, so that's, I feel comfortable with both folks, and
I have a question. So now that we have 2, are you cutting back their hours? Peter's hours, basically?
no, I think they're going to work, what do we say, 10 hours each per month?
But I think Peter works more than that.
No, he had one really, because there was a lot of stuff piled up.
Well, because he
was injured. I think he didn't seem concerned about the schedule and the hours when we talked about it.
I think he is.
Yeah.
Because I walk with him a lot, so we set up times to meet, and you saying, I have to get a second job, my wife, I guess...
Well, we have to have backup if one of them we can't deal with one viable, Stuart, obviously.
Right,
We
but
learned
I-
our lesson, so we need to.
Right, oh, I agree.
And
We also talked to Peter and said, you know, the hours will be a kind of a process that we'll be basically fine-tuning as we go along. Clearly, you know, if there's a storm, we'll need more help. Now when more people are hiking, we'll need probably the trails checked more often in maybe March when there's snow on the ground. I mean, it's something that will work out depending on what the budget is. And if it turns out we don't have capacity, you know, we can ask for more in our budget or whatever, so.
Okay, because I think he was,
Yeah, I have.
and I like Peter Lai, he's a very good land.
I have stressed to Peter on multiple occasions that he's valued. I don't want him to leave. You know, we're going to work with him. And as I mentioned, there's a number of other jobs that we'll get to, signs and invasive clearing, a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, I'm hoping
Walking
that
the trails.
our special projects, like we're going to be putting in the fencing, they're going to be on that, so that they're going to
And
get.
Wayne would be a good one to help with something.
Well, that's what I want to talk to him
Yeah.
about, so if, I'll leave a voicemail, I've sent him emails and texts, and I'm going to leave him a voicemail message, so.
Plays a lot of golf this time.
Does he? Maybe I'll take him to breakfast or something.
Oh, no, he's out of Fenwick at 8 a.m. No, I know.
Speaking of McCulloch, Peter said that you and he visited Jim's sawmill site. Does Jim have wood that's cut up that we could talk to
Have
him
you
about?
ever been to the sawmill site? We should take a walk sometime. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
The stewards,
So I know that Peter I couldn't figure, McCulloch South, I couldn't figure, so is that the Red Trail?
Yeah, it's the entrance off Flat
Flat Rock,
Yeah.
yeah.
I figured each of them could walk half, because it's such a big property that I had to divide it in half
Okay.
to equal the area,
So he has McCulloch,
and somebody else would come in from Whippoorwill.
right, but if you wanted to go and see that, the best way to do it is if you walk with us on a McCulloch South. We looked at it, all the sawmill equipment.
Excuse me, do we have to go through like Anna Holland's property to get to it?
No, it's on our property.
I know that, but how do you
No.
access it?
You know where that big curve is? Go straight. And that's it, on our property.
Yeah, maybe you can take Mike over there, or I can go with you guys sometime.
Yeah, but all the sawmill equipment is gone.
I understand that.
And he had the right to do that, but he's in such poor health.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's funny, the last time I saw him, I thought he said he was going to buy some new equipment, and
well, he can hardly stand it. So,
But is there usable wood or anything that's there for us? or-
I don't know, we looked at it.
Is it ours, or is it his, or?
I don't think it really cares, we could clean up. I'll talk to him about it, but
Because we were thinking of that, what is it, Bartholomew wet spot?
Yeah, but
you know,
it's
if there's
more
some-
like big trunks of tree,
Oh, so then, we can't
it's
easily
a lot
move.
of, I think, and maybe this would be something for the land stewards, if maybe we went over there and kind of organized it a little, or took an inventory, would be good. Because Peter had said he thought that, remember when we were doing Ames, we got the 4x4s or the 6x6 for our
Yeah.
trails? He thought there were a bunch there, but we didn't see any. But he also had some down at the stone barn, where he kept all his stuff. But the stone barn is being sold,
his bid what?
being sold
Oh,
to Anna.
oh,
So it may be difficult to access.
Yeah.
So we should maybe sooner than later,
Take a look.
Do we
Yeah.
still have an easement for emergency vehicle access?
and for maintenance. But if that's there, I'm not sure how it's left. If Anna thinks it's hers or something, I can call Dave and ask. But it'd be nice to do an inventory, and then even if we had to move it up the hill, Wayne's got trucks and everything, he can move it, we could store it, things like that.
Oh, because if there's usable stuff for trail maintenance, especially in wet spots and things, because we were thinking that we might need something like railroad ties to
I didn't see anything like that, but I think that was mostly kept down to stone barns.
Yeah.
Let's kind of move on.
Okay.
That's
done.
Okay.
Railroad ties, I thought I might get a cross discussion here with Evan about the types of wood we can use.
Well, and I still have.
It's not railroad ties, that's wood.
I have logs of black locust that are rot resistant that the next best thing is rocks. So I've offered them to the Land Trust for the Boy Scout project of Rose Lane. So we're not Rose.
Yeah. Well,
Or Foggy Hole Road.
Foggy, yeah.
I just have a quick question, Amanda. I was showing Mike
Hillwood West.
what we had for supplies in the storage room down there. And I noticed there are a number of the emergency responder books. Did we pass them?
They never passed them out, no.
Okay.
We were waiting for the Land Trust to update something in there.
Okay.
Oh, and then we gave them to Tim. We gave one to Tim, and the Land Trust has some, but no, they never went out.
Okay. Take a look at that.
And they were going to go to the emergency.
The firehouse and the police and everything.
Okay.
But I think it should be updated and mention that we have the QR codes on it, so.
Yep.
And I don't know what's in there now. I haven't looked at
It
it.
needs to be updated. With
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
So on to Ferry Landing. Anna's traveling today, so she did submit a report, and I wanted to go over quickly that she is going to hire 2 consultants via her grant, a biologist that Mike put her in touch with, and also Nancy Merrick, who has a PhD and a background from Yale Forestry. We interviewed her as a steward, and she's going to do some work with Ann on GIS mapping. She's going to do a management report for future guidelines for native planting and invasive control. And she also has a drone, and she's going to do a couple drone flights to kind of provide images of the Ferry Landing area. Her student intern, Nick Force, completed his project. We met with his faculty advisor from Mitchell College, Lindsay Rush, and gave her a tour of the project. A group of us went down there and kind of worked to protect the native landings we did before on a very hot day, and thank you everybody for doing that. And I also like to thank Amanda and Wayne for putting the kiosk up there. It looks very nice.
Yeah.
It looks very nice.
Ann was very excited. Oh, very nice. Interesting to see what goes on it now.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that Ann was concerned about was getting approval from DEEP to spray down on Ferry Landing. And probably a coincidence, but I wrote to DEEP, and the next day we got a response from them on Pond and Lake. I think it's a good response, but this is from the woman that handles the NDDB portion of it, the Natural Diversity Database. And she said that she doesn't see any plants that we need to be concerned about. However, she said there are 2 turtles known to frequent this area. So accordingly, she recommended that we have a qualified herpetologist on site to protect the turtles when any work is being done, that we not do any work during the turtles' dormant period, that we use exclusionary practices to try to protect the turtles when spraying is done, that would include exclusionary fencing at least 20 inches tall, and she talks about a number of different parameters for that. That all personnel working there must be apprised of the possibility of the turtles being encountered, no heavy machinery in turtle habitat. The contractor and a consulting herpetologist must work together. Also, be careful felling any trees that might fall into the waterway to report any confirmed sightings of box water spotted turtles to the deep personnel. So,
Box, wood, or spotted?
None of them are there.
Pat Shippey says, because she goes down there a lot, that there are always turtles down there.
Yeah, they're painted.
Painted turtles.
They're painted.
I don't know. She just
Yeah.
said, you know.
I think there are probably some.
Those are the only ones we've seen.
I'll show that. I'll pass that.
Yeah.
I just got that in the mail today. I haven't had
That's
it.
good.
Yeah.
So that's just the condition, so they're gonna issue the permit, and that's one
They're
of the
going to issue
conditions.
the
We have a
permit with
herpetologist
those,
there.
and Nick has already written back to her, kind of starting to negotiate with her. If he goes in by hand and he doesn't have equipment, does he need the fencing and so forth? And so I'm sure there'll be a little bit of back and forth between Pond and Lake Harbor, Mender and Deep, but bottom line is, with, at the most, these precautions that we need to take, we can proceed with the project and get some spray done on Phragmites before they go dormant this fall.
So these are recommended protections.
Yes.
We're not obligated to do
They're not
any of this.
required.
That's something for Pond and Lake to basically, I think, negotiate with Deep, yes.
So when do they, the turtles nest?
In the spring.
Dormant,
Well, 'cause I was thinking gopher tortoise on Sanibel, and so the season is, I think, from May to November 1st, and they do stakes, and then they tie the yellow
Right.
crime scene
Yeah,
tape
they do the
around
same
it.
on.
Our turtles have nested already. They
Well-
nested in the area that Deep disturbed, and it was all painted turtles.
I'll send everybody a copy of this letter. I think, off the top of my head, November to March, is it?
Yes, November to March.
Yeah,
It's not the right habitat for spotted turtles.
I don't know.
Or terrapins, and they don't like that.
Terrapins, it's fresh water, so they're brackish. They're on the other side. They're in the river.
Yeah, but not in Ferry Landing.
They're not at Ferry Landing, but I mean, we would have seen wood or box turtles in all of our wanderings over the upland.
I'll ask Pat if she has any pictures, just out of curiosity.
Well, there's turtle. There's a lot of painted turtles there, and like I said, we saw one snapper.
That's, there's...
The interesting thing was Nick and I did a hydrographic survey, and I had a 40-foot cord to measure the depth of our pond, and most of the depths went down 18 inches. The deepest depth in the pond was 3 feet. Now, I wouldn't, encourage anyone to get out of a kayak or canoe and try to walk on it was a kind of a mucky organic material.
Well, the whole pond is in the process of eutrophication and
Yeah, but we had thought it might have been used
turn into a swamp again.
as a gravel pit for I-95, and it wasn't. The deepest spot was in Shippey's pond, and it was 7 feet. The little pond on the state property, deepest depth.
Now, I'm just curious on the time frame for
That-
eutrophication.
That's,
How long will it take to fill in?
Oh, hundreds of years.
Yeah, there's no water source
Okay.
bringing.
It's just rainwater and whatever runs off.
Is that a spring water?
What's that?
That's a spring pond, isn't it?
I suppose there may be springs in the pond, but there's a spring, the spring on the town property flows
herpetologist.
in the wet seasons,
Right.
flows in, and that's a source.
Yeah.
But,
Touch
all
base-
crazy.
there are no streams or rivers or
touch
anything
base
coming
with
in
Ann
that I'm
and
aware of.
Pond and Lake.
So it's going to maintain that depth for
Oh,
Beyond
decades?
our lifetime.
for a while. It depends on how.
The organic matter will...
Yeah, the Phragmites is going to be contributing
Yeah,
quite a bit of
Phragmites.
organic matter, both above the water and below.
Yeah.
The other thing that could impact it is if you have a major storm and there's washover from the Connecticut River, it could get a ton of stuff. Looking at the historic maps that I have, you don't really see a connection. I have I think I've distributed, did I distribute the 1838? It just stops right at the ferry landing there, and there's no connection or anything at that time, and they would have picked it up. But there wasn't a pond there either. They had a wetland indication. So it might have been just a freshwater wetland. that was,
I think someone dug it out at some point, because they're looking at the old surveys. I thought there was a culvert under the river, under the road.
there, I suspect there is, but it's.
Yeah, so you're starting to get a little brackish in there. I
Well,
would
it could
think.
be. It's certainly that when the tide comes out on the Connecticut
Yeah.
River, the pressure from the river water raises a couple of inches. It goes
Yeah,
up and
brackish.
down.
Yeah.
But the animal life is all fresh. I mean, the
Fresh water.
Interesting.
our fresh water. Now, we didn't do a fish inventory. I don't think there are many, if any, fish in there. You know, it'd be very difficult to catch fish in that 18-inch muck. So I was surprised because I did expect some deep holes in the bigger pond, which, you know, just because I thought it was mined for gravel. Shippey Pond might have been dug.
Oh, Shippey Pond was dug. I've
Yeah.
got pictures of it being dug.
Because I can just tell it's
Yeah.
deeper. It's deeper than any of the other pond.
Yeah,
Deeper
no.
than that. 8 feet, I think, 7 to 8 feet.
Nate did that. Yeah, that was dug.
Okay. Well, moving on, we did talk about a few issues at Horseneck Creek Landing. Did you have anything you would want to add, Fred?
Well, we have information on the website now describing Horseneck Creek.
We do.
So thanks to you, Greg.
Thank you. We will modify that, I guess.
Okay. And we're going to move forward with installing the fence this fall. So I think we have to delineate exactly where that's going still and purchase the material.
Yeah, when I guess we would have to schedule a work day, because if we have the material dropped off there, I'm worried about, you know, can it be secure for, you know, until we get it in?
You could also have it delivered here,
But
or to
then,
someone's house.
yeah, I guess we could, and
It's
so.
a lot of material.
Oh, okay.
Hate to have to
there's a
move it
longer
again.
fence right in the, right.
Well, yeah, it's gonna be, you know, 11-foot rails and,
Well, if you know the
6-foot
delivery date
posts.
timeframe, you could coordinate a work party around it.
yeah, that's what I was
Well, I
thinking.
think the first step would be, you know, for the commissions to get together and basically scout what the length of the fence would be and so forth.
Yeah, well, I've got it crudely delineated on that map that went to the zoning commission. And depending on where we want to have a viewing area, you don't want to block off the viewing area so people could get to it. But I think it's pretty well delineated, and it's just a matter of measuring it and ordering the material. Fortunately, the price of the stuff has dropped significantly since.
Is there any thought about what needs to be or what could be cleared? I mean, there's an awful lot of nesting area along the edge of the marsh. So if you're thinking of specific viewing areas, instead of just...
I think the only thing that we would, trim would be Phragmites. And then, ultimately, we might, if it were successful at Ferry Landing, we might use those types of techniques, but it's not as much. I think just cutting it would be more than adequate.
I don't recall the details exactly, but I recall there was a discussion if there's a lot of, I don't know what you call it, the brush that would serve as, is basically a natural barrier for anybody.
There's a lot of catbrier along most of the trail length, but we did talk about opening spaces where you get good views, and Fred and I
The fence is not going to
we're not going to
impede the view. It's a
No, I'm just
Rail
wondering
fence.
whether the fence is going to, whether the brush has to be cleared for the fence, and I would be...
It's going to be we've got plenty of room along the trail.
Yeah, because that's very valuable nesting air sites, that brush for sparrows and wrens, and judging from other margin areas along the marsh.
It's a migratory bird habitat over there, and a small animal habitat.
Right.
And turkeys and deer and turtles and rabbits and small habitat.
Yeah.
Well, look, it's mid-September. If we want to do this fall, we got to figure out where we're going to put it.
And you and I, Fred, should just go down there and figure out the length, and once we know the length, we order the material and get a date. I've got a travel schedule that's a little complex. I think I'm going up to experience the hurricane in Maine this weekend, and then, but I'll be back at the beginning of October for a couple of weeks.
Okay, and also, I mean, there's been some discussion about running the fence along the property line with the butter. Have we decided on that? What are the thoughts on that?
Which abutter? You got two abutters.
For you.
I would prefer not to. I'll be doing a planting bed this fall. I'm more concerned with the unauthorized mowing a couple of weeks ago of wetlands, private property, and tidal marshes. I think that needs to be addressed.
I was going to
Okay,
speak
I
to
wasn't
that
sure.
in a minute.
Okay, thank you.
Regarding the fence, I mean, I think there's some details we have to figure out a way to work out.
Yeah, my feeling is we should put it
Harbor
along.
Management has some thoughts about that too.
Yeah, I mean, I've scheduled it, I've indicated, and we could put it along Amanda's. I think in the long run, it would help protect you, Amanda, in my humble opinion.
You know what?
I kind of concur with that too.
I think that,
Because it defines where where
Well-
the town property ends and yours begins.
okay, but in the past, and on our other open spaces when we acquired them, we have always left a buffer zone. And we have talked about doing a buffer zone after the parking areas and the wood road. And there was discussion, and we talked about how I could put just, a gate look up there, not a gate. And then all of a sudden, somebody is mowing right to the property line and parking their vehicle and their tractor on there. I think that that is a major wildlife corridor. That's hundreds of acres of wildlife between the Greens and the Romeos and the Black Hall and me all the way down. We have deer, turkey, everybody walking there. And you put a fence up and it's going to be a barrier. So I think...
A split rail fence will not be a barrier.
Yeah, no, believe me, the deer could jump over.
No, if you run it for feet, I think we ought to go down and look at it. Let me finish my planting bed and look at it, and I don't think it's going to be necessary. I think something on the roadway, a distance from the property line, saying this is private property, so I don't get, the more traffic down there is more cars coming in and turning around. So I think to go partway down that driveway and put just a post and say private driveway could alleviate, that's the major concern. The rest of it, if on the right side of that wood road, if it was stopped mowing, then you could have those migratory birds and habitat for small animals could coexist with what's going on the other side. But if the mowing continues feet wide into wetlands, onto private property, and into marsh that was supposed to be protected, it doesn't make a difference. You'll destroy everything down there.
Well,
I'll restrict the conversation right now to the fence.
Okay, so I think we could talk like we had talked with our abutters when we acquired open space. Mm-hmm. And say, what's, 20 feet, and to put a sign so people will stop traveling. Then they'll realize if I'm here, I'm just going to back up and turn around. That's a better alternative, I think.
Well, it seems to me this fence or part of it should be used to protect your property from access.
I think.
And I don't know exactly what that looks like, but that should be part of the discussion.
We could go and look at it.
But because it depends where you run this. It's going to determine how much material to buy. I mean, if we run along the property line, then that's going to be another 50, 60 yards of fence.
no, it's not that far.
Well, whatever.
It's not that far.
Yeah. But whatever the distance is, it's going to be more. Just along the marsh edge.
Yeah, I think it's more like 150 feet.
Okay. Well,
It's not far.
But we need to know what we have to buy material for. That.
Yeah, and I think we should really delineate Amanda's property boundary so people can't get there. And she can do the planting. I don't have a problem. It's not gonna go right on the property line. We'll be a few feet off. But,
Should we find a time to meet with Amanda to hear her out exactly what you're proposing? So, because we have to make a decision on what we're gonna install.
yeah, I could go, tomorrow or Friday. Then I'm gone. I'm just gonna be gone for 2 weeks, but we should get a measurement and then figure out, when we're gonna schedule probably maybe early October. It'll be a little cooler. I don't wanna schedule a work day like we had the last one.
Well,
Oh, yeah, I didn't even show up. I was in PT. I said, forget this.
Yeah, that was
That
hot.
was brutal.
That was brutal, but October should be better. And then, I think it's not gonna take, if we get someone that, has a post hole digger, it's just gonna drop them in and put them up.
The soil's not very amenable, I'll
I'm
tell
sure
you
there's
from
some
my
rocks still on the
experience.
job,
Yeah,
It's all
It's gonna be work.
tree root.
Oh.
You can't penetrate it.
yeah.
So
Well,
it's very difficult. Bring a drill.
I think we
You
can
know,
organize that somehow.
Yeah, get a date but I can do it tomorrow or Friday and then I can go on Saturday.
How about later this month? I got company, my son's visiting.
We'll be back at, the end of, what is it? I'll be back like in the first week of October. So almost the middle of the month, right? What is it, 13th?
Fred, if you want to come down, then you could,
Well, I think we should do it as a group. I'd like to invite at least somebody from Harbor Management to come as well, so we're all on the same page.
okay.
Okay, so I'll...
Just do it. Do it.
I'll try to organize that, but
Yeah,
it's gonna
I'm
be...
around, I may have a yard sale Friday and Saturday.
It's gonna be once Mike gets back from,
Okay.
if he survives the hurricane.
Yeah, I could be back early. We rented a place because after Denise has a conference, we're going more east towards Lubec.
Okay.
And I don't know what the elevation of the house we rented is at. It may not be a house.
My son was going to spend Saturday on the top of Mount Katahdin, and there you go.
Oh, nice.
He said, well, maybe I'll be actually sitting by the fire in the cabin at the bottom of Katahdin, sipping tea in front of the fire.
Okay.
I just wanted to make a
Could be
quick,
back early based on weather.
I just wanted to make a quick comment about the fence too, is that I think the recommendation adopted by the Board of Selectmen said that open space would pay for that. And it's been a little bit of frustrating summer in getting things moved along because of different positions being switched and vacancies and so forth. But I did push Kelly Sterner, who is the temporary finance director, to get as quick as possible, decision on whether we carry over funds. If we were able to carry over monies from our stewardship account that wasn't used last year, that with the justification it was used to help pay for this fence, so we should be finally good to go budget-wise.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's just get the location, we have the bucks. And then, I'm not sure the purchase, process that the town has.
Yeah.
But they might have, arrangements with some lumber companies where that's where they do business. Usually have a contract for the year, and we just need to know that, so we go to the right place and not do it ourselves.
So I'm going to organize a site walk to make a proposal for a final location of timber fencing. I'll do that before the end of the month.
End of September?
End of this month, yes.
Okay.
In September.
I'll give you the exact date I'm back,
Okay.
30th.
Okay, so at various points, work that's been done on the property has come up. Mike mentioned it, he was here earlier. Amanda just did as well. Just a bit of background, I think it was in June. Mike and I cut the initial path that we all agreed to the 4-foot wide width. Subsequent to that, I'm hearing some of the secondhand, so I don't want to misspeak or anything like that, but I think Terry requested extra work be done to Mike. Mike said he would get to it, but in the meantime, I think Mike Barnes went down and widened the path in certain areas, added certain...
It's 10 feet now.
It is at least 10 feet in certain areas. Cut additional areas, maybe sort of around the parking area. Another little path connecting the parking area to the original path. I think
Sorry.
cut Phragmites, ostensibly to provide a better view, I guess.
He went down through the title marsh, and you had to get permission from it.
Okay.
Cam.
I wasn't there, so I don't know all the
I was.
details. A bench was installed, and then there was this cutting along the right-of-way, which apparently, I'm not the lawyer here, but apparently, it was on Black Hall property. So, what has happened in the meantime, I did get a call from the president of the Black Hall golf course. He was polite, but he was very firm. He was upset about what the cutting along the right-of-way on their property. He requested that the second sign be removed, claiming that it's on the Black Hall property. They were going to do a walk, I think yesterday, with their board to look at it. And I had to relay that to Tim Griswold. I told him. And as far as I know, I just said, Tim, you need to call the president and sort this out. Okay. So that gets a little bit into my interpretation or my experience how this has worked out. I feel like open space all along has been very open with harbor management when we're going to do something. Made it very clear that there's an agreement to do that. And when we've had to use power equipment, we went all the way to protect the town from any liability by signing waivers, releases. And I did write a letter to Tim, or an email saying that I didn't see harbor management doing the same, taking the same precautions. I.e., for example, going down there doing work, whenever they want to, or without any waivers, or also doing work without really clarifying to open space the scope of the work that they're going to undertake. So this is my feeling. I think that one way or another, the two groups should come together, or the selectmen should act to clarify the roles of the two commissions. And
I thought that had already been done.
Well, yes and no, because the recommendation that we all voted to and agreed to is a little loose. It says the two commissions are going to cooperate. And the wording is a little, so it's how you determine, how you interpret the word cooperate. I'm not sure the exact language, but it doesn't specify clearly the exact roles of each commission. And I think it would be helpful if, this is my suggestion, that any of the work on the upland portion be done exclusively by harbor management. We have our stewards now in place.
No, the upland.
The upland.
By open space.
By open space.
Okay, you said harbor management.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm sorry.
No, good. I'm glad you
I
caught
thought
me.
that was the understanding.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It left it a little looser. If you read the language, it's cooperation. So it depends how you cooperate. So I think because the communication hasn't really worked out well, I think we need to draw some final lines. And I think it would benefit everybody. It would allow open space to focus on the upland part. We have the resources to do that. We're open to any suggestions at any time, things that need to be done, and can respond to that. We maintain all these other properties. There doesn't seem to be a problem usually with that. And then harbor management, they can focus on the dock, which is, good luck to them, and focus on that. So that, I think it'd be helpful to resolve this. That's my
Terry, did you have a comment?
Yeah.
So, I have written multiple letters all summer.
I'm sorry.
I have written multiple letters all summer. I've tried to contact that it needed to be mowed. The parking area was high with grass. It was an initial in the springtime, cut the trail, but nothing, we've been saying all along we're going to bring signs down, we need to do a work party and so forth. I have all the emails reflected, and I heard absolutely nothing. And I think Mike missed something, he had said that he didn't do the one text, but I said, can we get somebody down there? Now, understand that you have not had anybody to be able to maintain it. And then I got a couple of phone calls, where is the bench? I'm thinking one of the meetings you had that you were going to put an observation bench or some sort of bench. And I said, well, we haven't gotten that far yet. I'll let you know. So when I went down, there was cutting done, I noticed coming down the road, because they haven't been cutting the sides of the roads, the town roads, there's been so much rain and so forth. But they, their brush hog type mower actually cut the road on Button Bog coming down. But then I noticed when I pulled in, it was all cut going down the driveway. Because it's very, when they cut it, it's all like shredded and frayed with that type of a mower along the side. We did not touch that. That was absolutely not us. And so that was mowed. And then when we got down, we had to we did clean up the parking area because the grass was just very high. There was some prickers coming around over top, so I cut the prickers down. Yes, we weed whacked, he mowed, and yes, Mike mowed, we left a lot of the flowers, because I'm a big pollinator person. Went around all the flowers, including in the parking areas, there were still flowers there. We were very cognizant of making sure that we were just cleaning it up for swallow season, specific to a few people that made the phone calls and was it ready. And one of the most important things, I want everybody to know that we are very, very, interested in keeping it natural, absolutely natural. It was the areas that were wide were specifically wide. Yes, we mowed a little bit too wide. But I said to him, please don't do any more of that. We do have a pollinator that I'm going to come and talk to you about. They are part of San Audubon that I'm very much part of. They like to do pollinating down there and so forth. So they were very interested in doing that. While I was down there, I had a person coming down the driveway to pick up the neighbor, and she started screaming at me about how dare I knock down an operator. And who, that was open space, property, and it's not harbor management property, and I didn't know what she was talking about. Then we did notice that there was an osprey nest that was down, but we did watch a guy in a John boat, and I don't know if it was a DP person or what was going on, but that had nothing to do with us. We would never, ever go out and knock down an osprey nest. We were getting yelled at. One of the other things that yes, we did, and no, he did go down on the march. We took the first layer of the Phragmites down, and we put a bench. We got phone calls, thank you so much, this is fantastic. We went down and we watched so that was it, and it was not touched on camera. And I've asked the president, this to have a grand, not very grand opening, but letting the public know with rules and regulations where they can go, where they cannot go, to delineate. We did a really good job on the signs. We measured for that middle sign because that was told, we were told to put that sign there.
Who told you to put the sign there? I mean, I'm curious because there's two opinions on what property it's on.
So when we asked about ordering the sign, we said we were going to get 3 signs.
Yeah.
One of a smaller sign at the road. We didn't want a big true sign at the road. We didn't want it to be the normal size you guys do when you're coming to your spaces. We made it smaller because when you come out, the viewing area to the left and the right, and where we would put it. So we were told to get those signs. They're 18 by 18, one at the road, one halfway down so that people won't go to the pit, and then the bigger sign would be run down. And everything was measured out. Now we were all told, and that's what we ordered. And when we ordered the signs, actually, Mike, we did them exactly,
No, the language, yeah, we did review the language.
Size, we didn't want them to,
The middle sign in fairness to everybody, we did have a temporary, one of our temporary signs was there,
Yeah, so we
kind of directing people down, and it was my mistake, well, because I wasn't really aware, we hadn't talked to the town attorney and the rights of way. We hadn't heard from the country club yet, but obviously that was a mistake to put the sign up on
We
the
were,
right of
honestly,
way.
that was
Yeah.
something that I thought we were playing by the rules, we were doing everything right, we were doing nice signs, and we absolutely measure. We measure from the center of the road. We do have another attorney setting up the letter that is a little bit of a big, what you're being told and what I'm being told, that you can maintain. We didn't do anything on the top of the road. We never touched that. I don't know who touched that. And I think it was the town crew mowing, because it was all like ripped up. So no, we did not do that. And then he did go down either side to make it neat on both sides. It's always been mowed on both sides coming down, one on either side. And that was it. That's all we did. So,
But Terry, I guess, let me just interrupt. I'm confused. I thought your harbor management, what is going on the upland? Why are you involved at all?
That was our agreement that we would be doing it.
Yeah, no.
But it wasn't being done.
That you would cooperate, but you're not to do the work.
Okay, I mean, since June, I haven't seen any letters.
I
also.
Martha and Tim about, talking about, are they gonna mow, are they gonna maintain? That was the deal that you were going to maintain, and you guys, you got it started because I pushed you to get it started for the summer.
So your letters went to Tim Griswold, not
Martha, I talked to Mike, I talked to Fred, I've texted them.
Well, we haven't communicated since.
I got one text from you, and Mike responded to that text the same day, in my presence. And
That, I think you were finally in the very end. So this has been all summer long, and then when the letter came out, or the book came out for Open Space and Land Trust to the whole entire town, revised 713, and I understand the reasoning, Butthole wasn't even put on it.
Well, I mentioned that to Michael, I don't know if he conveyed it to you. That map was not edited because there are some things that we still need to do. One of the items we'll talk about later today is the delineation of noise. So noise is not listed on that map. Ferry landing is not listed on that map. That was a temporary quick update because the QR codes and the printed URLs on that were incorrect. They did not work, and we wanted to have a couple copies to hand out in midsummer. It was never intended to be a final publication, and we will.
I think the interpretation and the gray and the everything just seems to be going back to just it's a battle. Like no one wants to, tell the town this is here. I mean, obviously we were going to have.
But I don't see how we're battling, Terry. I see a lot of pushback from you, but what are we doing that makes your life difficult?
Well, I think.
I mean, we're supporting your dock. I don't see.
Open Space and Land and Harbor Management Commission are bringing together this property to the town.
Right.
I've never been rolled out.
So I saw, for example, in your minutes that Michael Presti was asked to contact me to talk about publicity. Did he ever reach out to me? Did he call me? Did he email me?
We were going to do. Remember? No, that was in response to you making.
No, I didn't suggest that. That was in Harbor Management's minutes that you asked Michael Presti to contact me to talk about publicity. He never contacted me, period. And I don't really want to get in the back and forth of this.
You said that we were going to have Harbor Management and Open Space go to the property, take pictures. And
When did I say that? When did I say that?
Mike, do you remember him saying?
I wasn't there.
Okay, weren't we all going to go down to the property and take a picture and roll it out? Do you remember that?
My understanding was that managing the property was you guys were going to provide the water access, period. That you were going to get a dock and that you would leave the upland area in in the hands of the Open Space Commission, who manage hundreds and hundreds of acres of land in the town of Lyme.
Yeah, and this hasn't been managed for the last 40 years.
Okay, well,
It's been fighting tooth and
Well,
nail
I'd like to
for
comment,
it.
I mean, Evan, on what you said, see, that's the issue, is this committee worked for about 9 months, people were getting impatient, and we came to a recommendation, and at that time, it was a good recommendation, but it was nebulous, and it basically, in my view, relied on the good faith of both commissions to work together cooperatively, but it never said specifically, harbor management, you only do the dock, and open space, you're entirely responsible for the upland. It did not specify that. And so
I thought it did.
what I'm saying, and if I want to make another observation, I mean, partly this is the reflection of the nature of the two commissions, if I will, and I do appreciate, and just for historical reasons, when Mike Barnes brought this up about a year ago, whenever, I said, Mike, thank you for bringing this to the attention of the town. Okay? And I appreciate your enthusiasm for this and you wanting to get it done, but you guys have sort of a different temperament than open space. Open space has responded to all the things that we've talked about, just not as quickly and as rapidly as you have wanted to. And if for some reason we're not around, or it's a hot summer, we're not getting things quite mowed as much as you'd like, then what happens is Mike's jumped in and done this stuff without communicating to us. And as a matter of fact, he's overstepped some of the things that we agreed that we would do. And we did not agree to widen the path well beyond 4 feet in certain of these issues. We haven't talked about where to put the bench. And for heaven's sakes, I mean, yeah, this is a beautiful property. We want to get people there, but people are not like beating down the doors to get there.
Well, I think people are a little nervous
Well,
because it's taken so long.
there's nothing to be nervous about. We're rolling this out. And also, in defense of the commission, we're all volunteers here, as are you.
I am.
And we all do different things, and we're giving this the time that we can. And I just think it's time, you guys should back off, and I think the line should be drawn a little more clearly. And we're happy to respond to anybody in the public.
Well, let me toss out one thing, Terry. Let's look at going forward for the time being. As Mike mentioned, we have a full complement of stewards now. They're going to be assigned to this property. Will you let us manage and maintain the upland while you guys pursue a dock?
Will I let you?
Will you agree that
You have to. Will we, yes, all of us.
okay, let me rephrase that. Will you refrain from maintaining it and give us the opportunity to maintain it?
Absolutely, because Mike came to us last night with a great plan. We were very excited to do that.
Yeah, let's just take a step back. I mean, just a little history, because Fred and I were on the Button Ball Committee, and it was painful in the beginning, but we all reached a conclusion because we want to work together as a team, because we can get more done as a team. And I can appreciate maybe I didn't respond fast enough, or I think I was willing to weed whack the area, but I couldn't get there as quick enough as Terry wanted to, and that probably aggravated them, and I can appreciate that. But I think I've reached out in agreement with Mike. You've got some things that are issues, because we didn't even really know, is DEP going to approve the dock where we've staked it? So we were sort of reluctant to do other things until we really have a firm location on where DEP is going to approve the dock, because that affects where the turnaround is, how we might have wider trails, from the parking area to the area where the dock is. Once, hopefully, they're going to put it where we've requested, because that's the narrowest location and probably the least environmentally impacted site, that's where you would have the minimal environmental impact on crossing the tidal wetland. But yeah, the trails are, and we may have to maintain them a little wider. But a lot of our trails, I'm sure you've walked our trails. Our trails are about 2 to 3 feet wide, and the traffic maintains most of our trails, except for Rooks Meadow. We don't mow our trails regularly. because the traffic maintains them. Now, much to my, we don't have the traffic at Horseneck Creek yet to maintain the trail, so I think we're going to have to go down there and weed whack them a bit.
There's down there.
I don't know that we need to mow them, but once, if that's the case, then we'll do that. But I think going forward, to maintain our team together, I think maybe the chairs should meet and work out a more formal arrangement, so that if you're concerned about something that isn't being done, that we have a process by which it gets addressed, or at least we discuss it.
They couldn't even find the signs to park. There was all the grass was up.
Well, I had to disagree because I was down there and I walked the whole trails, and
I did not find it that overgrown.
it wasn't that overgrown. And so, okay, but that's a disagreement. But what I would expect out of respect for me, because I am trying to make this relationship work, and I'm willing to be a liaison with the harbor management, and they're doing lots of good stuff, and some of it is, in some ways, more difficult than what we've been dealing with this summer, at least. I can appreciate all the issues that they're dealing with, and we can work together. And I've got projects that I'd like to see us work together on in the future that would benefit the whole town, if we can do it. But perhaps getting the chairs together and we develop a procedure where, if you're concerned about something that's not happening, before you go down there, at least talk to us and let's go down and talk about it. Just have a procedure. Mike because I met him on the site, I guess after the mowing, and he was sitting on the bench, interestingly enough, but he agreed to that. He said, just call me and I'll meet. I'm pretty flexible. I'm pretty available. We can work this out as a team. And
I would like an opportunity, since I was there, I'm the abutter, and I watched the 3 hours of mowing. I would just like to comment, if possible. After I received the notice from you concerning what the attorney said about the right-of-way, and the town has the right to mow the right-of-way on their property. And earlier that week and during the summer, the Public Works has been down and cut around my mailboxes and done a marginal opening, because it's enough for a traveled walkway or driveway, and they cut on the sides, and it was fine. And they came down, and it was very nice, and nobody said anything.
Now, Amanda, do they have a mower?
They had that big brush thing. I didn't see a mow, but they were there.
Okay.
And they say hi to me. I know all the guys there.
I didn't even realize they were mowing.
Yeah, but they do. But they came. But on that Friday, Michael Barnes came down with his tractor and mowed for almost 3 hours straight from the beginning of the road, in front of the road. I watched him, and I have pictures, and so do the people across the street. Came down and mowed a wide path all the way down, right up to my private driveway sign, which was the area that we talked about not mowing and having a buffer, mowed all the way, so close. And a lot of when you're down there, you'll see the orange survey markers. Black Hall Club had their surveyor come down and mark their property. He also mowed all their property into the wetlands, which is a violation of the wetlands, then mowed a 10-foot path through your path that you had to get CAM approval for, then took his tractor all the way down through the marsh, which we had said, when I talked to Tim that day on the phone, that's where your fence was going, so people wouldn't go down there. Mowed it with a tractor. There was nothing natural left there. It was destroyed. Big swaths were done. I had a ride coming down to pick me up. She did speak to you. She was upset by what you were doing. I also had Phil Neaton came down from the country club and said, you can't do this. This is our property. Kept on mowing. He was not going to be. This is my turn. This is my turn. mowing and weed whacking and destroying, it looks like something that you would see an entrance to a roadway. They're destroying it one at a time. And this is not the first time. This is the third time this has happened since last September. And nobody has stopped. There is a violation of wetlands. You cannot mow into the wetlands of the
I can
Black Hole.
interrupt Amanda, okay? I'm a professional wetland scientist. I went down there and I saw no evidence of that. So I don't know what you're talking
Okay,
about.
on the right-hand side of the driveway.
There was no mowing in a designated time.
It was up to the wetland.
Now, on the other hand, I could ask you, who did filling adjacent to a tidal wetland, have you gotten your appropriate local approvals for the berm that you've built?
Actually, I got a letter from Eric Knapp that I have no violations and I can continue with what I'm doing.
Okay, well, I didn't know that. Congratulations.
And I passed that on.
So there's no violation of tidal
No.
wetland activity on that property?
Right.
I was there when Mike Barnes was there.
Okay.
Okay, now, subsequent to that mowing, we've talked to the town attorney. We found out what individuals that own their property on which the right-of-way is, and the town attorney has told us that it's up to the property owner to mow the right-of-way or not. And we can't put signs, okay,
On their property.
on their property, so
And that whole right-hand side, Mike, is a wetlands. I know because when my husband built the barn, it was identified as wetlands, that whole area, and we had to get a variance. So those are wetlands. But
are they tidal wetlands or?
those are inland wetlands. on
Okay,
the
well, you were
right-hand-
talking about mowing
And
a
then-
tidal wetland, didn't you?
And you did. I said both.
Well,
He
there's,
went into the wetland, he mowed on Black Hall property next to the wetlands, and
Well,
then he took the tractor.
that's an inland wetland, and he was mowing the shoulder that was, routinely mowed, and he was mowing on,
You can't do that on private, first of all, it's private property.
yeah, well, I'm not gonna get into an argument with you, but the factual things that you're saying aren't true, at least some of them. So.
They weren't mowing in that,
And
the tidal
if you
wetland?
read the Inland Wetland Act, which I know very well, okay, mowing is not a regulated activity adjacent to a wetland, and that's upland.
It's still private property. He's unauthorized.
That's a different issue, and we now know that only on our property, where we have the
And-
right-of-way, we can mow it on the
Eric-
town property.
Eric
On the
Knapp
Black
came
Hole,
down and had to delineate the wetlands on the left side for the parking and said, but he had to delineate it for the parking spot.
he's not competent to delineate the inland
Well-
wetland, because he's not a professional, he's not a soil scientist, so let's stop this baloney,
No, he
okay?
came down, and when Rachel came down, and because...
That's a whole different issue, because why were they there? They went down there because of what you were doing, not because of the mowing.
No,
Okay.
he went down there initially when you were putting the parking spots, and we had to get Eric Knapp to waive that it could be that close to the wetlands, because he said he can't put it next to one area of the wetlands.
That's not true.
It's
nothing-
the initial.
Nothing that you said is true.
It is.
Nothing is true. He was not down there. He was down there for your wetland violation.
No.
And the wetland agency was going to issue a cease and correct to you because they thought you put the berm in next to an inland wetland. Well, you put it in next to a tidal wetland, so they had no jurisdiction, okay?
And there was no violation.
So let's just stop this
But
discussion
the
because it's
first
not
one, I'll
productive.
get it.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman?
We do have a number of items on the agenda we have to get to. We're
I
getting
gotta leave it.
And we've got to get out of here.
So
But I think going forward, I think it's
You have a steward, we're pretty happy.
the two of us,
Yeah.
the two commissions have to work together. I recommend the chairs meet.
Fred and I would be happy to meet with you and Michael, Terry.
And- yeah.
Mr. Mead came down and he was told that we were cutting trees down.
No, he came down and saw you mowing on Black Hall
He
property.
was
No,
told
I-
that we knew that we were cutting trees down, he came flying down, I said,
Yeah.
"What?"
Yeah.
But let's, let's
I
agree to
think-
meet
yeah, I
and
think we
work
have-
out what we need to work
Yeah,
out.
we're open to meeting, we have to move on because we have some items we have to cover before the end of this meeting. Thank you all.
And, yeah, we
I'm going to move on to Champlain North. I don't know if you had an opportunity to talk to any tree service, Evan?
No, I've been going back and forth with Sabre-Tree, and I tried Bartlett a couple of times.
I can help try to reach out, but the one thing I wanted to do as far as that goes, and I think we really need to move along with that because we have some signs to put up, and we have to take care of any risk that the trees might pose, since it's dead, would be to ask for the commission's approval to spend over $2,000, if needed, to do some pruning on the Barbizon oak. If someone would make a motion in that regard.
I make a motion.
Somebody second
I'll
that?
second.
Okay. Any discussion? I would just...
I'm not that familiar with the Barbizon oak. I'm not that familiar with the
Yeah.
Barbizon oak. It's dying, it's dead.
It's dead. It's dead. There
Branches are falling off.
branches.
Potentially.
Branches will eventually fall off. Dead branches are over an existing trail. So we have two options. We talked about putting a fence around the tree, keeping people out from underneath it.
Yeah.
But the attorney said unless you have a complete fence that basically makes it inaccessible, you're not going to really reduce your liability. We'll put a sign up and try to prune the tree to eliminate any branches that are in immediate risk of falling down.
So are we truly liable if somebody gets hit by a branch? Because we have dead branches over all of
Correct.
the trails.
Correct. So we do have statutory liability. But on the other hand, if we know there's dangers, we need to address them. And so at the least, we need to do something with the branches that are over the trail, even cut those or reroute the trail.
If we're inviting the public to go and look at the tree, which is part of the bench and the signage about eventually the importance of dead trees and
Okay.
And I think pruning the branches to keep them from falling on the trail is prudent. And I think just dropping the dead branches and leaving it as woody debris on the surface is the best thing to do.
That would even help keeping people out from under there if they have to scramble over branches.
So we're just pruning the stuff that's over our existing trails.
Over the
Rick had sent out a photo
Yes, that was a very nice photo,
of
chopping.
the tree in the fence and put in red lines,
Yeah.
which I thought was a great.
So just to clarify, this would be if we need to go over that. I obviously hope to get multiple quotes and get the best price possible, but if it's going to be over $2,000, we do have the monies, and it's something that we should take care of and get in our rearview mirror. So, shall we vote?
So putting up a sign and saying, stay away from falling branches, that would not do?
We have that.
We have
For your
that.
safety, please stand
That's not
back.
adequate? Okay.
Well, we have that. Yeah.
Well, the fence was 5.
I never underestimate the foolishness of the American public, I'm sorry to say.
I think it's an extra step, Fred. It's a prudent step to take, and
Okay, thank you.
so let's have a vote on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The motion passes. Commission file storage. I went round and around with the IT guy in town. We do have money that was carried over from last year's budget of $2,500. I'm going to basically double check. If we can't get the town to do something, I'm going to establish a Dropbox account for the commission and have it accessible to all of us. And we also had $500 appropriated this year, and we need to get a filing cabinet so I can get some boxes out of my house. Ames noise map. We still don't know exactly where the property lines are for noise. The map that Lisa Nicolai did for us showed Sheep's Ledge within the noise property, which I don't believe it is. So we need to do some research on that. Would that be something that you would
So is that,
look at?
Lisa put Sheep's Ledge on noise?
Yes.
Did you find the Ames map in the Ames file?
Yeah.
Of the subdivision map?
These are the only two maps.
Remember the one Diana used to carry around all the time and says, "This is Sheep Sledge,"
Yeah.
when we were buying that piece?
So these are the only two maps I was able to find.
Let me just look.
And I also have the land trust application, which talks about Sheep Sledge being on Ames property.
Yeah.
So there's clearly an error on the town GIS, which I think Lisa.
Right here.
There's more than one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot on the GIS. See, right here is Sheep Sledge on the map.
Okay. So if you could work with me and work to try to.
Hopefully the GIS will
Find
be
the-
straightened out. I was on
Yeah.
a webinar today about.
Yeah, I attended that. Did you?
Yeah.
It was, I was disappointed.
So was I.
Because it was too much about what they did to get it going rather than what it can do.
Well, right, exactly. And I thought, unfortunately, the presenter couldn't say, we're going to do this. It was always, we're going to kind of do this.
Well, I dealt with a lot of IT people and that used to dealing with computers and not kind of really communicate that well with other lay people. So the next thing I wanted to just bring you up to date quickly is on Calkins Road. He wrote to Tim, and as a consequence, Tim has really taken the lead on this, and I have asked him multiple times that we need to get that stuff out of there. The latest response I got in an email copy Ed Dante and me is that Public Works is tied up with some paving projects, but as soon as they catch up with that, they'll get to those boards. And Tim was also talking to Harry Plout, the former harbor master, who has got a barge with a crane on it, and he hopes he can basically pull up those poles and then just drag the barge to the deep landing.
I can pull the plastic poles out with my hand.
No, these are metal poles that are down in the muck. You don't think they're...
I was there today, and I can pull the plastic.
Okay.
There's no poles to pull out. You just need to, at a high tide, pull the floating dock out.
That'll be good. And the last thing I wanted to mention, I think I sent everybody a copy of this. Ann Gallagher asked if Open Space, Gateway, Conservation, Audubon, Land Trust would all support Lights Out Connecticut. It's kind of a little bit out of our wheelhouse, but I think it's a good thing if you all agree. We can basically add our name to the list of people that's supporting the concept of trying to reduce sound pollution.
Absolutely. I've written, I've supported innumerable, Dark Sky Society and all that stuff.
So I'll express to Ann that she can count on us. Andrea,
Well,
thank you for being patient.
okay, there are a number of signs that need to be put up, whether it's by whom is not is...
He's got the guys now.
Well, yes, that's great. We could organize work parties in many different fashions. There's 3 for Champlain North. There's the Anthills, there's the safety sign, there's the Barbizon post, the sign for the Barbizon tree.
Yeah. So the one thing I would say, the anthill sign should go up right away. Probably the stay away from the trees sign should go up right away. The other sign, I was a little bit, I'd like to have any tree work done before we do that, just so it doesn't risk being damaged.
Yes. There's sign for the Calkins and the sign for the noise. I'll speak with Chris again tomorrow. I think those will be pretty much finished soon. Those need to go up. Then you talked about the QR codes. Are they about this size, or do you want to walk around?
I need to measure the one. So there's QR codes on our metal signs that no longer work. And Andrea,
why don't they work?
Because when the town migrated to
That's right, we had that discussion, yeah.
So Andrea said she can get, like we used to have on our license plates.
The little stickers,
Little
so
stickers
just go over, that'd be
but
great.
she-
I just
you know,
need the number.
I have the QR, I have the artwork, we
Yeah.
just need to get the size for you.
Right. the
And a
the
number
sign,
for you.
Quantity of the sign.
You need to know the size of the QR code on our kiosk. Is that what you're saying?
On the metal signs, yeah, the area that is covered by the old QR code, we want
Okay,
to,
'cause I'm walking tomorrow with Peter, so I'll...
if you could measure
Yeah,
them.
I was just thinking, but it would be
Are all-
at the kiosk.
Would all the signs be uniform in size, Amanda?
Pretty much, but we'll check as we go.
And then there's the two signs on the Ames sign, two QR codes on the Ames sign.
You could check if you have your phone, just check, you'll see it.
I'll just,
I don't think it's going to work.
you think,
The Ames
No.
educational sign.
Well, before you measure it, just hold your phone
Oh, to
camera up
see if it works?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
I'm pretty
yeah.
sure it's not going to.
they'll take a picture of it too, and then I'll...
It did not work when we did the Hikers Happy Hour.
We're doing Champlain South tomorrow.
All right, do you have any more votes?
No, you
Okay,
can go.
I've got to go.
Thank you, Evan.
Karen Taylor has taken over the environmental club at the high school. She now calls it Environmental Community Organization of Stewards. And she is the Griswold Reserve Steward. She's on the Solid Waste and Recycling Commission for the town, and she's on the board of the LYSB. So she's happy to coordinate.
Is she a teacher? Is she a teacher, or is she she's
I
doing
don't
this?
know. She didn't say that.
She's a tutor. She tutors in language arts at the high school.
Okay, there you go.
And could you repeat what the club is called now?
The Environmental Community Organization of Stewards.
Can't we get an acronym?
She gave one,
What
like, I
is
think
it?
it's, EOS, maybe, I have to just look. I could get that for you, Suzanne. So they are having their first meeting, Wednesday. So when and if we have things that are specific, we could invite them, and I also mentioned to her that there's the Hikers minus a happy hour, because it's an educational opportunity also for the
Yeah,
kids at
good idea.
4:15. I don't remember if they identified where it's going to be for next
Not
month.
yet, I don't think.
But I told her I'd get back to her.
Land Trust will pick a spot.
Yes. And should there be work projects, the couple that come to mind are on the Ames property. There's the bridge going over to the cave. Maybe the Horseneck Creek fence, the Bartholomew Bridge, Ferry Road, whatever Ann might need for that. There are the Bluebird houses. We have at least 3, I believe, and 2 poles that could be put up somewhere that we identify. And there is the Bat House, which is massive, so that may not be anything at the moment. And then the Old Lyme Land Trust had designed benches that I had attended the bench building, and I have the designs and plans from Edie, and we put them up at the various sites. That could be an activity as well. But I'm not looking to make activities or projects.
Do you know if Jim has any benches left? Jim Mildren?
We'd have to do an inventory, but I know that when Peter and I have been walking, and I think we sent the report to one of you, is that there were several trails that needed, I think one, I can't remember where they are, I'll have to look, but you know how we have the 6x6s that Jim used to make?
Yeah.
We have, and Peter said he purchased some of those. Some of those need to be replaced. He made a note of it.
6x6 what?
Would they go over, a little walkway or, a waterway?
Footbridges.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yes, but, okay, so, and we were thinking young backs because they're halfway through the open space that we were walking, so they could come in and just put it in and save us from carrying these pieces of wood. So Peter Norris would know, so we could check with him. But I was thinking your hiking club or environmental club or whatever it is, that would be a good task for them, and quick, and they could even volunteer to do it on their own.
They're not going to do it on their own, and I don't think they should do it.
Okay, well, then,
Myself, I think it should be, if they're working with us or the land trust, that it
Yeah,
should be.
because they got to track their hours and stuff, I'm sure.
They do, and,
well, if they carried it, we could, walk with them. That's the only thing I was thinking, is
well,
just,
if it would be a work party.
Yeah.
I wouldn't just say go out and do it. I think we would organize it, and I would expect some of us to be there.
right, but it's something that 3 people could do. You didn't need to have 8 kids, 'cause it wasn't like the ones we did on Ames with Wayne and all that. It was just thinking, okay, we're going to replace some of the footpaths, and so 3 go this way, 3 go, one of those type of days. And one of us
Well,
could.
in that case, we could join up together or have different meeting
Yeah,
points, but
yeah.
they would have to be accompanied.
I was just thinking, if you're looking for things, we noted
I'm
that.
not just,
Looking.
If she
I'm not
wants to do
making work
stuff.
for the sake of making it busy
Yeah.
and work.
No, it's a
But that if
necessary.
there's-
We
Yeah.
have things that we need to do.
Well, that could be,
You suggested a lot of good things.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah, and if they're going to select what they want to
the
do.
Bartholomew Bridge is going to be a little bit more thoughtful and involved. Apparently, there was already several
Oh.
attempts, and
The beavers are working wonders there. The water's going away. It may resolve itself. So, yeah, we've been following that, so it's
Okay,
interesting.
cool.
Yeah.
And then lastly, the governance there's a governance workshop put on by the Community Foundation on October 4th that is, what does good governance look like? How to use best practices to make it happen. There's a Master of Social Work, Dowling Coaching and Counseling Consulting Group that will be speaking on this at the Old Lyme Country Club Wednesday, October 4th from 12 to 1:30. I think it's $25 or maybe $30 to go, but there's a speaker for about an hour or so. Usually they're very good and to the point, and you get food. For lunch. And you sit with the library, you sit with the other groups
free
in
lunch.
town.
Anybody
No,
interested-
$25.
anybody
Pardon?
interested in
$25
attending?
bucks.
Oh, well, it's a country club. Maybe they'll serve lobster rolls.
If anybody's interested in attending, let me or Andrew know, and we can pay for a few. With the stipulation that those of don't go, you'll come back and tell us the wonderful knowledge you've gleaned.
Yeah.
Good governance at the local level.
I think we've done those
state
before,
level,
paid for the luncheon, so.
at the local level.
Yes, I'm sure it's more related to local nonprofits and what,
Or maybe good governance of the nonprofits then. How you get effective functioning boards, you look for members.
I just wanted to mention quickly, while Andrew's checking, that the Hikers Happy Hour, I think we had about 7 that started out on the hike. It was a really hot day. And I think we had 4 or 5 that joined us mid-hike. Then when we got back to the inn, it was full.
apparently there was a wait, that was, not a wait, but a memorial service that was also taking place at that
So there were
time.
extra people.
A lot of people.
Well,
Yeah, I was away that day.
I don't know what brought the people there, but they were in using the happy hour prices, and I know Chris had a big smile on his face.
I heard the prices weren't happy hour, because I heard back, I was out of town that day.
Another issue.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think they ever are.
Well, they said $15 for a mixed drink. I go, that's not happy hour prices.
It doesn't give me more detail as to what it's
Okay.
about.
Fine, happy hour. That's-
Half price, $4.
Because it'd be,
Okay.
you're on
Okay, we got to move along, so.
They're more for nonprofits.
how you raise money.
It's nonprofit leaders
Yeah.
for this whole group.
Are we all set?
That minus the bike issue.
We haven't dealt with, but
Yeah.
we're going to bring the guys there.
Yeah.
We do see a lot of that activity on when walking, the bike activity.
That
Oh,
was
and
an issue I mentioned to Peter again. I said, there's going to be work than just walking the trails.
remember, oh God, why can't I think of his, help me out, guys. The guy on the bicycle, Pierre Rui, fell and hurt himself seriously. And he's having, because they were supposed to go to Florida on the auto train, and they had to cancel the last couple of days.
On one of our trails.
And he, I don't know, but he had an MRI and he has to have surgery. So I just thought
That happens when you mountain bike.
well, I don't know, I don't mountain bikes.
Well, we were on the trail together, the land trust putting 4 Mile River, putting a bench on, and we were showing, and then I was indicating, oh, this is a mountain bike trail, look at that, so, and he was saying that how dangerous some of them are, so he's aware.
Yes, but he took my daughter mountain bikes up.
Unless there's any new business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in
Seconded.
favor?
Aye.
Andrea, I have those, I just want to show you.